Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast, where we explore essential principles that empower athletes to learn life's most valuable lessons through sports.
Well, everybody, welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast. We're here with longtime friend Justin Miller. And Justin, we know you well, but others may not. Would you tell us a little bit about your journey starting in high school and where you ended up there at Southern Utah University?
I spent a good majority of my life in Southern California, in Irvine, California, and then moved up to Utah, actually a little bit before the rest of my family. So I came up at the end, the last quarter of my sophomore year of high school, and moved up and lived with my grandparents for a few months while my older sister finished high school. She was a senior, so my parents wanted to let her finish, and didn't have to move right at the end of school. But to get me settled a little bit up here, got up a little bit early, was at Lone Peak High School. And then my family moved in the summer, got our house and everything situated, and then was at Lone Peak the beginning of my junior year, and then actually transferred over to Summit Academy and finished there the rest of my junior year. And then my senior year, went to Snow College, played there as a freshman, and then was just there a semester, went on a mission and went to Romania. And then had all kinds of crazy stories there. And halfway through, found out I had broken my wrist earlier, my senior year of high school, my throwing wrist. And so the doctors in Romania told me to come home and get surgery. So I came home and then went back out a couple months later. So once I finished there, ended up back at Snow for that spring semester, and then walked on at Southern Utah. So that was kind of the process of getting to Southern Utah. Wasn't super clean. Definitely wasn't what I had imagined trying to play college football, but ended up all right. I got to start with a COVID half season in there, 3.5 seasons at Southern Utah. So ended up all working out for me, but quite the journey to get there.
Yeah, and you had pretty good, your senior year, you had a great year at Southern Utah, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we played well. We're a field goal away or a touchdown away from making the playoffs and winning a conference championship. So always disappointing when it doesn't happen. But yeah, we had a good season, and I think the most maybe feeling of success or accomplishment for us and for that team was it was our first winning record in I think it was 5 years or so. And so that was really important to the team and got them going in the right direction. And they've been about right around those playoffs. And I think they were the first team out or first two out of the FCS playoffs the last 2 years. And so they're climbing, they're getting there. But yeah, really important for us and kind of helping turn the program around and get them going in a good spot again.
So Justin, just real quick before Dustin asks you our first question here, I was actually a huge fan of yours. I attended every one of your games in 2023 season because my daughter was on the dance team there. So I just wanted to point out that I went to more of your games than Dustin. But yeah, it was always awesome to go down there and to see you do your thing. And that's really cool what you and those who played with you did for Southern Utah University. It always takes this like culture changing group of kids and coaches to take a program to the next level. And as it gets that next level, that must be really satisfying to see. So great job. And it was super fun watching you do that.
Thank you. Yeah. Kind of that turning the program around is, I think our coach would call it our stick-to-it-iveness. And I always like that term of kind of like we talk about in E4A with resiliency. And it kind of goes along with that principle of, well, we're going to see this out and finish it. And you get into all the stuff with the transfer portal and NIL money and all that stuff now, and that's a whole different animal. But it's hard to find those kids that have that stick-to-itiveness and that resiliency, and building that is super important with, I mean, starting in youth sports and then going up through high school and college. So yeah, it was a pleasure to be there for so long, and to stick through all those tough seasons that we had while I was there, and then be able to come out and, all right, we're changing this, and it's getting to a place where we're proud of being Thunderbirds and being Southern Utah alumni.
Justin, tell us about, and you don't have to give a specific, but I remember the first time I started working with you. Share your sort of coming to know. I mean, it started with QB Elite. You trained with me as a quarterback, but then, when did Especially for Athletes or Eyes Up do the work? Or, do you remember a time in your, not necessarily a specific time, but the period that you started to be introduced and kind of take to the message of Especially for Athletes?
Yeah, I think really when I started, the first time I heard about it was with Quarterback Elite. And I remember at the end of our camps, and even during our camps and our training sessions, you would bring up some of the principles of E4A, of resiliency and winning the hour. Make sure we're doing stuff every day and every hour of the day to get better and not wasting away our days. And I think that was kind of the foundation that set it. And then as we spent more time together and spending time around these high school in Utah that have E4A within the system, just kind of got a little more familiar with it. And I think it was a really good time for me, with moving and coming from California, coming from a different place, having to make new friends, and then changing over again with another high school where, all right, now I got to do this all again. I think a lot of those principles really resonated with me. I think probably one of the experiences I remember most with E4A was going to one of the kind of leadership summits at Dave Stroshines down in Orem, right next to his, or off of his facility. And we were just talking about all the E4A principles. And I remember getting to know some of the people there, and kind of making friends with these people that I had never met before, but we all share the same values. We have these same principles that we're learning, and we can use these experiences to learn with each other. So I thought that was a really valuable experience or memory that I have from E4A.
And I would consider you, Justin, for those that, that don't know, but you were, I mean, there's 10 athletes that I can think of that would be like the original 10 of Especially for Athletes. There was a handful when I was kind of testing the idea before we officially made it what it is, that came to some things. But when we actually had formed it, and that was one of our first events that you came to. So I don't remember much of Especially for Athletes. With you were one of the ones, Jaron Hall was another one, who were like lifers from day one. Like right when we first started it, you were in. And because of me, all the time we spent quarterback training, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hours in private workouts and small groups and camps. I mean, you've probably come to 30 camps, over your high school and college, and 100 plus probably workouts. It was really fun for me to see the program sort of be embedded in you at a young age. And as we grew the program and it got more substance to it and got more refined and cleaner, you were along for the ride. So much so that, we were talking about this off air before we started, even when we, some of our most recent events that we've done, leadership summits, like you just talked about, you've been a part of helping, and you've recorded at those things, and you've helped us set up, and you're going to be doing more with Especially for Athletes and Quarterback Elite. And so it's fun to have that. But let's dive into like real practical, like real life stuff. You had to practice the principles of Especially for Athletes right away. It's one thing to talk about it, but you had to live it, because your story to get to Southern Utah University, where you didn't just end up playing and doing well, you broke a lot of records at Southern Utah your last year there. So you're one of the top all-time quarterbacks to come through that university. But in getting there, you went through a lot of stuff. You had a short stint at BYU in the spring. when Detmer was there. You had to figure it out at Snow College. You then had to walk on at SUU, and walk-ons don't usually get 3 years of starting time at any college, especially at quarterback. So, and then you had to, it wasn't an easy road for you even in high school. Moving here in the middle of high school, that's tough to walk in and figure it out. And then you end up after, you didn't tell this in your intro, but after Southern Utah, you took a year off. We're trying to figure things out. You had your baby, and married and everything, but then you get a chance to go play over in Europe, and you play professionally in Germany. And not only are you the, starting quarterback there, but you're the league MVP out there in Germany. So, which is pretty awesome. And then you kind of got banged up again and you got hurt. Now you're home. Talk to me about resiliency. That's kind of where I wanted to go. You had to learn how to be resilient. So what's the principle of resiliency meant to you, and how have you learned that through your experience?
Well, I think part of resiliency, and I think I've learned it through the years, especially listening to more, especially for athletes. And I mean, there's been times when we were living in Cedar City where you would come down and talk to Canyon View High School or Cedar High School, and I would just come to listen and obviously say hi and stuff, but I wanted to hear the message again. And I think as time's gone on, resiliency has changed a little bit for me, because I think before it was when I was going through high school and then switched high schools and had to go to junior college, it was always kind of that underdog mindset, and I just have to be super hardened and just get through it. And like, I know I've always felt like my time was going to come, and my dad would always say the cream rises to the top, and all those kind of little sayings that went along with it. And I think the more time went on, the more I realized that it's good to build up that hardening and kind of those calluses. But at the same time, you can live these other principles too, of you don't have to just dig your head in the sand and outwork everybody, but you can also bring guys along with you. And I think one of the principles of E4A that sticks with me the most is the seek to bless, not impress. And that one, I think, probably sticks with me because I need to work on it more. And some of those other ones kind of, I feel like I do pretty good at that most of the time, but that one is always, you can always be working on it. And so kind of that resiliency leads into those other ones of, I can't just be hardened and cold and, okay, I'm going to outwork everybody, but I'm not friends with anybody. I'm going to beat everybody. And that, I mean, goes right into competing without contempt as well with other quarterbacks and your position groups and things like that. But yeah, I think resiliency throughout my whole career has kind of been prevalent of, it started as this, no, let me just work hard and beat everybody. And I'll take my blows and then stand up and be better. And that is part of it. But I think part of it is also, we're learning and we're growing in becoming resilient, where it's not just those things. It's all right, let's come out of this better, and we can go through these trials, these hard things, but still excel through them. We don't have to just be beaten down by these things.
Yeah.
That's one of those principles, seek to bless, not to impress, that if you ever think you're really good at it, you're probably starting to get bad at it, right?
Yeah.
If you're ever like, I think of myself and I just walk around just blessing everybody all the time, I'm really good at that. Probably a concern there, but that's really cool, Dustin. Don't you think the relationship between the principles is what makes the principles powerful? And as you're trying to change a culture, as we've talked about there, not the culture, but the results at Southern Utah University. If you put your head down and said, you know what, I'm just going to beat everybody, I'm going to be resilient, like you said, without those other principles, then it doesn't become what it became. It takes a leader to try to raise everyone around them. And when you have the leaders on a team and many members of a team that are not just concerned with resilience and winning the hour themselves, but looking around and seeking to to bless people, to lift them, even if it means with all the training you've received and like how much attention you've given to being a great quarterback, you're training that quarterback room and you know that there might be some talented people in there that you could train to the point and lift to the point that it puts your own job in danger, but it's what's best for the school. And that relationship between principals is really a cool thing to talk about, not just the principals isolated from one another.
Yeah, I agree. Just you played in Europe. What was that like? Tell us the first time you landed you got off the plane in Germany and you're going to go play football. What was that like for you?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought it was very similar at the first couple weeks. I thought I was back on my mission. And
Really?
I mean, being in Romania and then Germany, where they're both European countries, so similar in that way, had kind of similar stores and things like that. So a little bit of, okay, I kind of know what's going on here, but very different because you're on your own. I mean, you're living in the same apartment with guys on the team, so you get to know them pretty quick and things like that. But it's a unique situation because you're on your own in this country that, I mean, most people speak English, but if you're walking around, you're not hearing English. And so
Yeah.
that was very different. And I think probably some people understand this if you speak another language. When you go to another country and you hear another language, you want to speak the other foreign language that you know. So you'd be sitting there, and a lot of my Romanian actually got better there because people would say things, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I don't know what they say, but how would I say this in Romanian? Because that's the foreign language that I know. So
Yeah.
that was unique. Very a different experience there. I think overall, I mean, it was amazing. Like the team that I got to play for, we were talking about that culture a little bit. They have a special culture in place there. Very driven, and the players there have to be, I mean, super resilient, as we're on that topic, but they have normal jobs. Like most of them they're either in school or they're working, and then they come and play at night. They come to practice and after what they've been doing all day, and they just love football. And that was something, probably one of the main things that that kind of gave my love back to football, was seeing those guys and just how much they enjoyed playing.
Yeah.
I mean, we had there's rules, so you can only have 2 American players on the field at the same time. So they're trying to grow the game in Europe. And so we'd have some European players, a couple from Finland, Spain, Italy, Sweden, kind of all around. But so we would see those guys a lot more. But I mean, those German players just love football. Like it's contagious. They just want to be there. They're so happy to be there. I mean, it's still football practice and it gets to be a grind sometimes, but it changed my perspective of every practice is so enjoyable. And I tried to do that in college, and you do it as best you can, but sometimes it's just, this just isn't the thing to do today. Like this is horrible. But
Yeah.
where you only had so many, we'd have 2 practices a week, and then every once in a while we'd have an extra walkthrough or kind of jog through, but we'd have 2 a week, and so you got to make them count. And it was just so enjoyable. Loved the coaching there, loved the atmosphere of the players, and then the fans really surprised me. Where in our city, some of the best fans, where we were in Dresden on the east side of Germany, and incredible. Like they would fill out our stadium, and really one of the only fan bases that were that big. Some of the away games where you get a few hundred, maybe 1,000 people, and our home games were 6,000, 7,000 or 8,000. So they were up there. And then the championship game we were in was actually in our city, in the big soccer stadium, and I think they were at 22,000 or something. So pretty special, pretty unique thing. And yeah, I love the time over there. It was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. What do they think of Americans over there in Germany, in your experience? Were they cool to you, or did they have any issues with you being American?
No, they were pretty cool. I think, especially the city we're in, a pretty historic place, and so they see a fair amount of tourism and things like that. So, pretty cool there. And then they do similar things with their other sports teams, with
Yeah.
hockey and basketball and things like that. So they have a few Americans and people. I mean, enough people that speak English to where
Yeah.
everybody kind of knows what's going on.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, good, man. Talk to us about Win the Hour, and then I know Shad has a couple questions for us, but as you were, working on your quarterback development, working on rehabbing after your injuries, just life in general, now as a parent, what does that principle, the first principle of, especially for athletes, why is that important to a young kid playing sports, to understand winning the hour?
I think it sets the tone for all the other principles, and then just how you live your life. I mean,
Yeah.
waking up in the morning and getting straight onto your phone, or whatever you're doing that's unproductive, going down to watch TV or flip on YouTube, whatever it might be, turn on Fortnite, all that stuff is, I mean, as you get older, you start to learn I'm wasting time. Like there's only so much time that you're going to have to live and to do what you want. Especially in high school and junior high, elementary school, where, I mean, it takes kind of a certain developmental age to kind of understand it. But
Yeah.
as you understand those principles and start to live them, all right, I gotta make every hour count here. And I think it gets more important when you get to junior high and high school and then college and beyond. But I think parents have a big influence on that, and I know mine did. Of what are we doing today to get better? Right? Are you just going to sit there and watch TV all day, or are you going to go out? I mean, playing with your friends is a great thing to do, right? If you're
Yeah.
outside and I mean, just throwing the ball around or running around, that's not necessarily a bad thing to do, especially these days. So
Yeah.
I think my parents had a big impact on that, of go out and play with your friends. And when we're doing sports, let's go do sports. Like if we were having a baseball practice or whatever, we're showing up an hour early and getting to the batting cages and things like that. And I mean, if we were to talk about resiliency, I got a lot of stories about getting hit with baseballs in the batting cage and things like that from my dad. But yeah, just winning the hour is, you wake up in the morning and you find your purpose. And I think that's what E4A is meant to me, is find your purpose, and then it becomes a lot easier to win the hour. If your focus is, I want to become the best quarterback ever, or I want to become the best point guard of all time, whatever it might be. And if it's not sports related, that's fine too. If I want to be the best dad I can be, whatever your purpose is, I think it becomes a lot easier to win the hour. And so, yeah, I think that's probably what it meant. And then, I mean, the first time I heard it, it was, yeah, I got to know what I'm doing every hour of the day. I think kind of scheduling helped me with that. And not that you have to schedule every day, but I think if you go for a week and kind of schedule out your days, see what you're doing all day. Like, we have all this time. What are we doing with it? How much time are we wasting doing other things and things that don't matter, things that we could push off and maybe or eliminate out of our days? I think that's one of the things I like the most about the phones, is that they can show you how much time you spend on every app. And I think that's really telling for people, especially if you're kind of on the lazier side, or maybe you're not, but you're still spending a significant amount of time on Instagram or on Twitter. You can go in and see that and say, all right, I need to maybe make a change here. And you don't have to go through and schedule out every day. But I think kind of that awareness and that acknowledgement of, we talk about eyes up, you got to recognize what's going on here and then start to do the work and do something about it.
I love that phrase, Dustin, find your purpose.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, we talk about living a life by design and not by default, but if you're going to design something, it needs to be toward a certain direction. What do you really want to be in life? What do you want to accomplish? What are your priorities? And once you answer those questions, then you can design your time in such a way, fashion it in such a way that helps you become what you want to become. And in default mode, I just feel like there's a lot of people that they miss their purpose because they don't even ponder the question about what is my purpose? Like, what do I want to be? And they go with the flow, even in sports, right? Like there's some kids that they just kind of do whatever their family has done, which is fine. But if we start asking ourselves, what do I really want to do? What do I love? What comes natural to me? And we start finding our purpose and what we really want to do, then it's easier to win the hour. It's not just discipline, it's discipline toward something. And I love that thought of find your purpose in relation to win the hour.
Yeah. And being focused, it's I think so many of us, it's an easy phrase to say, well, be intentional, or live a life by design and not by default. And it sounds great until we actually go back and look at our day and realize I'm really not. I'm just kind of living. I'm just, I'm hour to hour, day to day, and then the week, a new week and a new week. And next, it's been a month, it's been 6 months. And next thing we know, it's year's over. And last year was a lot like the year before that. I just same habits, did the same thing, still wanted to get better at A, B, and C, and didn't, because the bottleneck there where things get kind of jammed up and progress stops, I think, is the consistent working. But first you got to recognize that there's some holes, and that's really maybe the most powerful thing about winning the hour is what, Justin, I thought of it when you said you don't have to schedule every hour all the time of every day and live by it like religiously. Like that would be I wouldn't live that way. I don't think that's I couldn't do that. But it is good to do it from time to time. It's sort of like it's almost like a fasting of sorts, like to kind of just, okay, what am I doing? Like, look, I need to look and kind of reevaluate some things here. I waste a lot of time. And if we don't know what we're wasting, then we're going to just kind of live, just do stuff. And then like a month goes by. So like to do a self-evaluation and then make a course correction if necessary, that, okay, I'm off course here. I need to get back on course. And between 10 a.m. and noon, I'm kind of just floating here. Like I could be more productive. What are some other things I could do during that time? Maybe that's when I need to get my workout in, or that's when I do my meditation or my reading, or I call my family or a friend or whatever. I take care. Like, but until we have maybe it's the humility to look at ourselves and say, I'm probably wasting some time. What are they? And then where can I get better? And then do the work. Nothing's going to change. We'll just talk in circles, and it's a lot of, woulda, coulda, shouldas, wish I did this, need to do that, and nothing actually happens. I think it's that way in sports. I think it's that same way in every area of our life. We like the idea of change, but we don't like to change.
Yeah, I like one of those kind of newer age terms that kids are using is like the bot. Of you're just kind of a bot. You don't do anything. You're a robot, and you're not really aware of anything around you. You're not aware of your circumstances, things like that. And I think that kind of fits perfect. That's one that I actually like. I am being kind of a bot. I get on my phone and I just scroll Instagram for an hour. That's not living with purpose and winning the hour. That's just being nothing, right? You're not getting any better from that. And in finding purpose, I think that was one of the best things for me going over to Europe. Because after football ended, it was kind of, all right, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And that can be playing football, if you feel like that's your purpose. And maybe it's more spiritual for some people of what am I supposed to be doing while I'm on earth? But that was one thing that I was trying to figure out. And after my senior year of college and when I was just working a normal job, my wife knew. She's on it of, you're not super happy, like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. There's definitely something more that you're missing. And so kind of that time back away of, yeah, I need football again to kind of figure it out, where I know football's not my end purpose here.
Yeah.
Playing football is not my end purpose, but it gave me that time and that space to kind of figure it out. And I always love the quote from it's in the Last Samurai movie with Tom Cruise, and it's kind of near the end. He's going through this journey of, he doesn't, I mean, he's gone through his life, but he's not really living. He was a soldier and didn't love it, and then was just kind of a lifetime soldier guy, moved around, hopped around armies, and then was taken to Japan and captured by the samurai and lived with them for a little while before he was taken back and released. But at the end of the movie, he says that a man does what he can until his destiny is revealed. And I think that's kind of what we do. As much as we try to find our purpose early on, and some people are really good at that. You hear stories about people that are teenagers or younger, and they're like, I knew from when I was 10, this is what I was supposed to do with my life. And I haven't quite felt that way. But I think with people that don't have that experience of knowing early on, I think you go throughout your life, and if you're intentional and you are trying to win the hour, that kind of gets revealed to you as time goes on, and those experiences that you go through earlier in your life make you ready for what your true purpose is and what your destiny holds for you.
Like that.
I love that. That's a deep thought.
Yeah.
You just keep going. You keep doing your best at everything you do. And I think it's an important thought too when chapters close, right? Because we've had a lot of athletes on our podcast that they've talked about that transition from sports to life, and how that was really difficult, like to be a professional athlete or a college athlete, and then all of a sudden that sport light turns off, and it's like, wow, now what? And I think it's healthy to view it as, I learned a lot of lessons doing that. Now, my purpose is not to be a football player, but if I keep giving everything I got to what I'm doing, what's going to happen eventually is there's just going to be this door open or this revelation come that's like, that just feels like a fish in water to me. But it comes from taking advantage of every opportunity that comes along. It doesn't come just by sitting on your couch and waiting for life to give you purpose. You know, my future son-in-law calls it being a D1 doom scroller, you know, whenever he sees my younger daughter on her phone, even though she's not on it a lot, he's like, D1 doom scroller, you know. But if we just sit there and think we're going to find our purpose by watching other people's lives, that's typically not what happens. What happens is whatever life presents to us, we win the hour in that thing, in that moment. And going back to that, like Dave Stroshine first event at Pinnacle, whatever that was back, that has changed hands like 19 times now. But I remember Bob Cattell telling his story of walking down the hall. He compared it like when we're going toward a goal in our life, it's like we're passing a bunch of doors that open as we walk by them. And we may not make it to that door that we're ultimately going toward, but it seems that by going towards something, other doors open, and every now and then we turn in our life and we see a door that's open. We're like, that's an interesting door, and we walk through it and we go as far as we can, and then we may not make it to the end of that door, but we've opened other doors, and pretty soon through that maze of decisions, it just feels like we end up where you know, we're all men of faith here, where God wants us, like, and where we can use the talents and the gifts that we have to lift and to help other people, and it feels so natural. And I've just really liked that analogy, but you just taught it in a different way, Justin. I I feel like whatever comes up in our life, win the hour in that thing, and it will open other doors. And that might not be the thing, but it will open the doors to the thing. And so, anyway,
Yeah,
great
and
thought. I love that idea.
it's okay to go into those other doors sometimes, right? Like to not just stay in the same lane forever.
Yeah.
I think it takes a wise person to be able to recognize that, okay, it's time to right hand turn here. It's time to 90-degree this thing, right? Like I need to go in that other door. I've, instead of holding on forever with something, realizing it's time to turn the page and move on and then not live last page. It's over. I read it. I don't need to go back and it's what's next. What's the new thing? You go to Germany, Justin, not knowing. I mean, you look at your whole life. First, you come to Utah, and it wasn't long after you made it to Utah that you came to a camp. At the first time I saw you was at a camp I did in Provo area. It's an indoor facility there. I think that was the first time you came to
I think it
something.
was Pleasant Grove. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you started coming to some workouts, and then that led to, especially for athletes, but then, you're all of a sudden you were starting to find some things that still now 10 something years later, you're still involved in, right? But you had to make a correction to Snow College, and then you had to make a correction to Southern Utah, and you had to make a correction and let's try Germany. And now you're here where you're at. And all these things, all these doors you went into have now made you the Justin Miller of March of 2026, that had you just stayed in, no, I am this, and never realized I need to, try something different. It's okay and change is hard and different, doing different things is hard. And a lot of us are afraid of change, right? We're afraid of rocking the boat when we get comfortable, but growth doesn't happen in comfort zones, right? So we've got to realize I'm getting pretty comfortable and I'm not going really. I don't feel like I'm pushing myself. That's a good time to, like Shad said, look left or right. And if there's a door open, let's go in here and see what I can do. Right. I mean, that's how I think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I finished college, I got a job working as a commercial lender at a bank and Cedar City, and we just wanted to stay there because we loved it. And I mean, I learned so many things there of working with people in a business environment and how to communicate in that way. And then also just in terms of business about, I mean, hundreds of different lessons in accounting and finance and business management, where I was basically in charge of these people that we were lending money to. And I had to know what they look like financially, how their businesses were running, and I had to know how to communicate that with them and help them course correct if they were a little bit off. So, I mean, going forward, in I mean, basically everything after school and when you're growing up, you're going to be involved in business somehow. And I think that was a huge stepping stone for me, where I needed that. Of if I had just went straight over and played in Germany and come back, I wouldn't have all that knowledge and experience that I had there. And so, I mean, even if you don't exactly know what your purpose is, like we've talked about, kind of finding those doors that are open and going through them, you're still going to learn a lot. And that's probably going to help you as you move on in some way. And sometimes it can be a totally unrelated field. Like I don't expect to be back in the banking industry, but at the same time, you learn things about business and about finance and things that are going to help you forever. And you make connections with people that you never know when those people are going to cross your path again down the road.
Yeah.
And your wife is a hero too. Like I think I love studying the lives of successful people. And because I'm a man, I gravitate a lot to successful men, and to have a wife that says, I could tell you're not loving this, even though I'm sure it was a safe, secure place to be, and is willing to say, go do what you need to do. Like it's fine. I'm here. Like I think that there's something really cool about not getting locked into a safe place and saying, I'm just going to do this because it's safe. and I'm going to keep going down and just keep my head down, and I'm not going to turn left or right because we're fine with the way things are. But maybe greatness is left and right. Those opportunities are left and right, but we settle for okay. And it takes a lot when you're in a couple for a person to take a risk to say, we're okay right now, but we want a great life. And I'm fine with you taking a risk and going out and seeing if you could create a life that's great. And I'm by your side. I think that's really cool to hear, Justin, about your wife and your relationship. Because I think that's important in getting where we need to get in life as well.
Well, and Shad,
she's special.
what normally she's Kenzie's the best, and we are all lucky to have. We wouldn't be anything without them, our moms and our wives. But Shad, I think that some of the reasons why we don't take those risks is that the fear of failure is so powerful that instead of recognizing that, yeah, you might fail, like that doesn't mean you don't take a risk. Like, yeah, you might fail, but you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. But you'll never figure it out if you don't ever take the risk. Like, you're guaranteed a mediocre. I shouldn't say that. You're not guaranteed. Maybe if you're doing something, it turns out to be great, and you look back and say, I'm glad I just stayed with it. So, you gotta kind of know when to get off the track and when to not get. But so many people have. I watched it with a very, very close family member of mine that did very well doing something that they didn't enjoy doing for a long time, but they had to put food on the table. So they took what they had at the moment and they stayed with it, and they brought a paycheck home and they took care of what they had to do as a dad, but wasn't happy. Right. And I looked at that and thought, I think I'm okay with being unhappy a little bit to find something that, really gets me fired up to get going every day. And I think too many of us don't ever really find that thing that we really could have been great at, because the risk of it being of not making it, we're comfortable being comfortable, and I'm good. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to risk it. I'm fine where I'm at. Bills are getting paid. I'm good. Right. That we never become what we're really capable of. And it's like Justin is trying to be a good quarterback, but never having guts to throw the ball into a tight window. Right.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sometimes. I'm afraid I'll throw an interception. Well, you might, but you're also going to miss out on some touchdowns too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes you just got to give your guys a chance.
Yeah. And you had to take some risks, Just, and now you've seen that wherever you're at or where you will be in 5 or 10 or 15 years, the lessons you learn by taking risks, I think, come back to pay you back eventually, right? I think, Shad, in our life, things we've done that at the moment maybe didn't work out like we thought, we look back now at some point over the last 10, 20, 30 years, even if it's just the lesson learned in the process of failing, helped us avoid another failure later in life that we never would have learned had we not, touched the stove, so to speak, and realized, ooh, that's hot. I shouldn't do that again. But you have to sometimes kind of try and get burned a little bit, right?
Yeah, and it almost seems like, when we're living, and I'm not degrading this at all. There are some people who are like, I know our life is like, hey, I go to the steel mill every day and I work and I put food on the table, and that's like super honorable. And I'm not degrading that at all. But I think sometimes we know that there's something else, but what we're afraid of is we have an average life right now and we're like okay with it. Like you said, the risk is that I'm going to step away and life's going to get worse. And so the fear of that we settle for average so much, and where, okay, this is going to take a risk. It is going to put me out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to have to sacrifice some things. And that fear of life getting worse if we change it, I think leaves some people frozen in a very average setting when they could have something more. And
the fear of the failure is greater than the hope of success.
Yeah.
Right. Is that kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's this opportunity but what if I fail? It seems like people and couples and families, even young people, Dustin, I've heard you tell people so many times, don't close the door on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't close the door on yourself. And,
Yep.
you know, I had a daughter that actually I had this conversation with. I was grateful for what I've learned from Dustin in that manner. Justin, you've probably heard it 1,000 times with all the times you've been with him, but I actually echoed it. I had a daughter that coming out of high school, I thought she had so many talents and things for leadership that for whatever reason, sometimes the way high school works out, some kids don't see themselves as they really are, you know? And there was the ambassador program at Snow College, Justin. You did a little time there, but where you tried out, you know, and my daughter was a drill team member and on the Badgerettes there, but had never done student leadership. And she was like, I don't know, I'm afraid that it's all going to be a bunch of student body officers there. And I don't know how to do that stuff. And even though they had come to her and said, you should do this, she almost didn't go the tryout. And when I look at that, the reason why was she was so afraid of being told no. And I actually told her, I was like, no, you're going to make someone close this great opportunity on you. You're going to make someone close the door. I made her go to the thing, and she did it. And it ended up being her best experience of college. But the fear of being told no almost kept her from not doing it. And I just think, Dustin, that what you just said, you articulated it very well, is that the fear of failure becomes greater in some people than the hope of success.
Yeah.
And so they stay where they are. They would rather be known as someone who had an average life than someone who tried and failed. Where successful people, I think, they would rather be known as someone who tried, who made people close doors on them. And I would say, if you have not failed, if someone has not closed a door on you in whatever it is that you're doing, you don't know where you could get.
Yep.
Like you're just hanging out in the hall. Make someone shut the door on you. Keep trying. And I think that success comes when we keep going until someone closes the door. And then we call an audible. And then we move. And then we go full speed down another lane. And that's how we get where we're supposed to be. That's how life reveals our purpose to us, I guess. It's not sitting on a chair contemplating, but going after stuff. So
Yep. Yeah. Well said. Just you're young. How old are you now?
28.
Yeah. So you're man, 28, really? Golly, I knew you when you were really young.
Mm-hmm.
You've been around, you've been in this program, really have been since it first started. Well, 28, you're still young. So you still have lots of stuff to do and figure out, but you now have a young family. You got another one coming here in the next couple months. Has your perspective changed now that you're now an adult, man? You've got a kid at home and you got one coming. What does win the hour or compete without contempt or resiliency, seek to bless, not impress, eyes up and do the work? How has learning that from sports now helped you transition into, earning a living and being a dad and a husband?
Well, I think it's definitely takes on a little transition of being resilient or competing without contempt, especially where you're sitting there in a competition with quarterbacks all the time or whatever position you play in sports of, all right, I gotta win, right? I'm trying to be the starter here. That changes a lot, especially in a family dynamic. Obviously it keeps in there with some business a little bit, but in terms of family, I think, competing without contempt has taken on a new meaning of me and my wife still need to push each other to be better. I think it's what we've talked about of not staying the same and being average. Of we want to still be improving. We want to find that next level of both of our abilities, and doing that without being mean to each other or degrading or things like that. I think that has taken on a whole new meaning of we're competing with each other where we're both trying to get better at different things. We're trying to, in spiritual way, understand God's purpose better, God's plan for us, or the scriptures, or in a parenting sense, how can we be better for our kids? But you're doing that completely without contempt, or we're trying to, of you're not arguing and debating of, well, I'm doing it right, you're doing it wrong kind of thing. It's counsel together and talk together of how do we do this? How do we make each other better, and push each other instead of just I'm trying to be better than you.
Justin, just do what your wife says. I'll save you a lot of everything you just said. Just do what she says, and you'll just save yourself a lot of pain, brother.
Yeah, that's probably a good call.
Usually we learn that lesson the hard way, right? At the end of it, we're like, I should have just done what she said the first time. It would have saved me the last couple hours and her not talking to me or whatever it was, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the other one that stands out is the seek to bless, not impress. And I think that, I mean, you guys know with your kids and stuff where you kind of take a back seat a little bit and you want to get the best for them and put them in the best situations of how do I bless these kids? And I mean, Dustin, as a coach for a long time, you've done it and you continue to do it of how do I bless these kids' lives? How do I give them wisdom? And I mean, that's kind of the whole purpose of what we do for E4A is how do we get these kids to kind of understand it earlier and start to live that way so they can spread the word even more, right? Yeah. We're trying to do that and get these kids to listen and figure it out kind of earlier on so that they can make an impact on these high school and junior high and younger kids where, I mean, even if maybe they don't have it quite figured out, but they're living in that way, they're going to have impacts on kids around them. And through that spotlight, I mean, they're recognized. People hear you. I tell our quarterbacks and receivers, like, when you score a touchdown, you're the name that gets called. You're the name that gets put in the paper. You and your receiver, you and your running back, whoever it is. The linemen aren't getting all of their names listed out in the paper or in the school newspaper, whatever it is. And so people recognize the name. People recognize who you are. Basketball especially is a big one where they recognize your face because you don't have a helmet on. So they're going to recognize who you are if you're on the team. And using that spotlight and understanding, all right, I can bless people around me. I can help people and be a good influence and do the right thing and bring people along with me. I think that's one of the biggest ones is once you figure it out, now you're responsible to bring people along. You're above people, so don't just keep pushing them down because that doesn't make anybody better. That makes everybody worse. Bring them up with you, and then we can create a cumulative effect of, well, now we're impacting tens, hundreds, and thousands of kids instead of, oh, you figured it out and you got it, but you didn't do anything with it, right? And that's part of the do the work. But I think that transfers into being a parent as well. Is we're looking out for our kids and other kids of we're trying to bless their lives and help them understand these principles early on so that they can keep doing that with the people around them.
Can I, on the seek to bless, not impress, I thought of something as you were speaking there. So, but I might be off base a little bit here. So Shad, you can correct me.
I'll correct you, Dustin.
We're similar in age, and Shad's the wisdom of the 1-2 punch here. So I run stuff by him. When you say seek to bless, not impress, I think in the sake of the spotlight and you related it to home life, which I think I can do here. But what we mean by that is you're not blessing anybody by your mere presence. When we say seek to bless, not impress, your presence doesn't bless anyone because you're the point guard or you're the cheerleader, or you just being around or being there. No, that doesn't bless anybody. You're not that cool. It's your service. It's what you do and what you give back. It's the do the work part that blesses other people. I think the same thing even as a dad. Yes, our presence as parents is important. We need to just be present, right? We just need to be in the room. But I don't think that's enough. We can be in the room and be present in the house and still not be engaged in our lives of our family. We can be watching TV or be on our phone or be thinking of work while we're sitting in the kitchen and our kids are around us and we're not engaged. So it's not so, yes, your presence is good. You need to be there, be home or be around your kids or whatever, but that's not work, right? That's being engaged with your family, putting your phone down, putting work aside and being engaged is what blesses them, not you just simply being in the room, unengaged, uninterested, doing your own thing, eyes down on your phone or your laptop or whatever it is. Does that make sense? So it's not just your presence, athletes. Yes, you have the spotlight on you, but Shad, you say it all the time that walking down the hall just smiling at people, that's nice. Like that's better than frowning at people, but just saying hi to people, that's cool. Like that's nice. Saying hi, waving to somebody and saying hi is better than not, but that's not really going to make that much of a difference. I wouldn't call that work. Work would be, all right, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and go talk to this person and introduce myself and ask them about themselves. And right. And that might be hard. Just saying hi to somebody isn't going to change your school. It's not a bad thing to do, but it's not really, we're not going to make the difference we're trying to make just smiling at people. We have to do more than that. That's good, but we can do better. Right, Shad? Am I too off base there?
Dustin, I'm happy to tell you as the wisdom of this operation that you are right
Thank
on.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I actually,
it's not getting edited out.
I had an experience just the other night. I mean, will show that I'm not completely the wisdom of this place, but I'm sitting there. My daughter, she's done with college. She's here getting married this summer. Her fiance's over. They were like, we want to watch a movie tonight. We want to watch a movie. And so they put on Shrek 2, and watching a movie. And I had my phone and I thought, I'm trying to get some stuff done too. So I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm returning some texts and doing some things as we're watching the movie together. And my daughter actually goes, Dad, I wanted to watch the movie together. And I mean, you might think both of them are screen time. You know what I'm saying? But the point is not we all want to be in the same room together, to your point, Dustin. Like she wanted to enjoy something together. Yeah. Even watching a show when someone's sitting there and you've recommended a show and everyone's sitting there on the couches. If one person is disengaged and on their phone instead of laughing with you at the movie and stuff, it feels different, And I do think that what you said there, Dustin, is really, really important. And you took it on to athletes and stuff. I feel like there's more and more we're in danger of being present and unengaged.
Yeah.
And I feel like seeking to bless and not to impress is we are very engaged. In fact, we are looking for opportunities to connect with people, to lift people, to laugh with people. In that case, all she wanted was like something funny had happened in the movie and I didn't even laugh because I was returning texts on my phone. And it was just like, I want to laugh together at this movie. And I thought about that as I went to bed, to be honest. Like, man, I do that too much. I'm present and unengaged because I'm not a D1 doom scroller. That's not my my problem. My problem is I'm trying to multitask. I'm trying to get things done. And I need to put stuff down to be engaged in order to be a blessing, not just present. My presence, I'm not cool enough that my presence can bless people.
Yeah. Just there's some wisdom for you, buddy, as you have your kids. Make sure that you don't make the mistakes we've made. We've done a pretty good job, but you'll do a better job because you've always been this way. You're mature beyond your years. You look for ways to learn from people who have already done it and or had some success in it. And that's a super valuable characteristic that you have that'll really help you. And Shad and I talk about it all the time that if you want to be good at something, before you spend too much time Googling it or reading a book on it, great, do those things. You'll probably find help. But I think the most effective thing to do is to call somebody who's good at it and ask them. And you'll probably get the answers quicker in a 5-minute conversation with somebody who's been successful doing that thing than in hours and hours of trying to find it in the book or online, or who knows who you're listening to. And if they're really even an expert, you don't know who wrote the article. Go to somebody who's been a good dad and ask them about it, right? Or who's good at whatever it is, their workouts or their eating habits or their, whatever it is. So, but that takes humility, because most of us don't want to ask somebody for help. It's easier to just Google for help. If Google was a person, we wouldn't be asking it for so much help, right? Because we'd feel like they would know we don't know the answer to it. The stuff we put in Google, if Google could speak, might say, "Are you serious? You don't know that? Or you really want to know the answer to that?" But we could just go ask somebody who's good at it, and in the process make a friend, because people like to be asked their wisdom in something, or for their advice in something, right? They enjoy it. It's a compliment to that person. So, Justin, you've always been good at that. And now that you're approaching 30, you're going to start having young kids, high school age kids that you're going to influence. I mean, I wasn't much older than you when we first met. So, that'll pass on to you. And that's really the goal of Especially for Athletes. This will be my last thing. And then Justin and Shad, if you guys want to kind of wrap it up. But the ultimate goal, if someone was to say, ask me for that, yes, we want to address things happen currently. We want to help kids now. But my real goal would be if in 20 years from now, the kids that we're working with, the 120 that I saw yesterday up in Logan, Utah, if of those 120, 20 of those end up being coaches someday, and they're teaching the principles of Especially for Athletes to who knows how many hundreds of kids they end up coaching. And that maybe at some time we actually tilt or tweak the culture of sports, that our impact in the sports world actually move the needle a little bit. Because it's hard to change culture in any industry. Culture changing business is tough. It's really hard. But if we could change culture a little bit in the sports world, because the people that we've worked with now teach their kids that, they teach their youth soccer teams, their high school coaches, their college coaches. And when we're older, we can look back and see guys like you, Justin, and others who are now having that impact in your neck of the woods, in your area, in your, circles. Then what turns out to be, 10,000 kids this year that we may be in front of or speak to or whatever, turns out to be several 100,000 kids or a million plus in 20 years from now. And so, Justin, we need guys like you to continue to take that torch and just preach on and live it, Ran, and coach and get involved and help and volunteer and do stuff. And, if you have the itch to coach, we need you. The kids need you. And we need good people in these kids' lives. So and Justin, you're going to be that. It's been awesome, buddy, working with you, and we have a lot more time and a lot more things to do. But I'm proud of you. Watching you, I mean, you know that I've told you this before in person, but I'll say it publicly. Watching you pull off what you've pulled off with as many blows as you've taken. I've never met a kid who just kept on plowing like you just kept on plowing. And you didn't open the door, buddy. You kicked it open. Like you bulldozed it. You just kept on grinding and pushing and punching and kicking, and finally you knocked it down. And sometimes you have to do that too. If you really want something bad enough, you just have to kick the hell out of it till it opens up, right? And that's what you did. So
out of it.
Oh, sorry. There's the wisdom he taught me. I went into coach mode, Justin. When I get into coach mode, he sees this vein right here start to get going. And then he's like, abort. He's going to say something he shouldn't. I'll end on that.
Go ahead, Justin. I've shared a lot of my thoughts. I really think from your story, what I just shared there, for me personally, I love these podcasts because I walk away wanting to be a better person. And some of the things you shared really made me want to be present, not just present, but engaged. That's what I'm taking from this. This week, I'm going to try really hard to whatever setting I'm in to be engaged, not just present. And that was really meaningful to me. So thanks for the things that both of you shared. But Justin, let's give you last word, and then Dustin will wrap it up.
All right. I really like that saying, that present but not engaged. And I think that can really make a difference in all of us. But yeah, I've just been surprised with the kids, the two girls that I already have, that how much they pick up and how much obviously they hear, and they'll repeat. And I'm sure all parents know that, but how much they notice things. I've always tried to be kind of one of the people that notices a lot of things, like aware of your surroundings, all of that type of stuff. And the kids just take it to a whole new level. Like they're doing something completely off to the side, playing in a little play kitchen or whatever they're doing. And you're talking to your wife or whoever, and they hear it and they see what you were doing. All right. If you're on your phone, they say, "Hey, Dad, come look at this." Like, I know you're looking at your phone. Come over here and do this instead.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I love that saying. I think that was a really good way of putting it, Shad. But yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, we've been friends for a long time now, and it'll continue, I'm sure. Yeah, hopefully keep finding that purpose, right? Winning that hour. And I would just encourage people that are not maybe happy or satisfied with what they're doing right now to kind of find those doors to kick down or walk through, right? It might be either one. Dustin kind of touched on another point of resilience. Sometimes you just got to beat the door down till it opens and find a way in if you really want it. So I think I like how all the principles tie together. That's one of my favorite things about E4A is they don't necessarily lead one right to the next. It's not footsteps into each other, but they all kind of circulate around each other and around that higher purpose for being better. And I think I would encourage, like you said, Dustin, where if people are interested in trying to move on and help other people, help kids learn these things, it doesn't have to be a high school head coach or a college coach. If you just feel like, oh, I want to help these kids, you can go volunteer and help coach your kid in 5-year-old soccer, right? It doesn't have to be this big time consuming thing. It can be little things and little steps, and volunteering in PTA programs and whatever it is around school and all that stuff. You can make a big influence on people's lives, and as long as we're teaching the good principles of, especially for athletes, and trying to be good people and bless those around us, and not looking for recognition. I think I love all the principles of E4A, and probably why I've stuck around for so long and still talk to you two is those things just really resonate with me, and they always have. And I think that purpose of passing it on to the next generation so we can have that ripple effect down 10 generations is what keeps me engaged in it, and I love that part about it. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. Everybody, keep your eyes up.
Thank you for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast. To learn more about Especially for Athletes organization, get a copy of our book, The Sportlight, or to bring our program to your team, school, business, or organization, visit us at especiallyforathletes.org.